Hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast, Hard Ticket, suchly named for the Andy Sedaris B-movie classic, Hard Ticket to Hawaii. I am your host, Jeffrey Boggess.
And I'm your co-host, Tristan Moore. I'm just a little guy who likes big movies.
Wow, that's a bold claim right off the bat.
Well, you know, I'm feeling pretty bold today.
Well, these are two pretty bold movies that we're going to be talking about today. But first, I have to set the scene, okay? So, it's a Friday night.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you're sitting at home, you don't have any plans, and all of a sudden you get a text from a friend that says, hey, me and all of our mutual friends are going out to the theater to catch a double feature.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Big
exciting.
Big moves on a Friday night. So you venture out there, you meet him at the box office, and lo and behold, you find that somebody made a mistake.
Uh-oh.
There are two movies playing at the exact same time.
Oh, no.
So now you have a hard ticket to choose between these two movies. And Tristan, why don't you go ahead and start us off by talking about option number A?
Option number A. Okay. So the first movie we'll be discussing here on this seminal episode of Hard Ticket is a little indie film you might have heard of called Pulp Fiction. This is a 1994 crime film, I think would be fair to call it. That's the genre. It's a crime film.
Yeah, gangster on the AFI list.
Gangster film.
Gangster
I think
film.
that's fair. Sort of mafia a little bit. It's, assassins, hitmen, that sort of thing. It's directed by Quentin Tarantino, famous the world over for his chin and his foot fetish in equal measure, and for his love of saying the N-word, of which Pulp Fiction may be the greatest example. So do we want to talk a little bit about our histories maybe with this movie?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and tell me more.
So, and we'll get into this discussion a little bit later. Quentin Tarantino is like one of the archetypal directors that kind of, this generation especially, that kind of gets you into film, I feel like. And I was no exception. I mean, I think Kubrick was really that for me, but Quentin Tarantino was probably right there next to Kubrick. Pulp Fiction I watched pretty early on in my like growing kind of cinephilia, where I was like kind of getting more serious about movies. I was in high school. I watched Pulp Fiction. Kind of blew me away because I'd never seen a movie that was so... it wasn't edited linearly. It followed a bunch of different characters. Some of them kind of like would just come in and out, and one of them even dies kind of suddenly and violently in the movie, who you expect as like a main character. It was just very different, and obviously there's a strange mix of humor and violence and that sort of thing. So I think it was a really sort of really important movie for my development as a film fan. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same. When I was in high school, decided that I wanted to get into movies, and I started with Quentin Tarantino because as a high schooler, anytime you hear somebody's name over and over again,
Right.
That seems like a pretty good place to start. So I watched all of his movies in high school. I watched Pulp Fiction probably 3 times in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, I watched it on my own once, and then I watched it with a group of guys. We had a film club, real casual viewers, and then we watched it in my film studies class, which we had in high school, which was awesome because everybody took it as one of those classes where you could just kind of
Watch movies.
Yeah,
Right.
So I saw it 3 times, and by the final time I saw it, I think I was pretty damn sick of it at that point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and I hadn't seen it. I don't think I had seen it again until this past Sunday, so 2 days ago, in prep for recording this episode.
Wow. Okay, nice. And so I think it's now time to introduce option number B, which you have the pleasure of introducing to the audience.
Option number B is the 1999, I guess it's not a gangster movie. It's definitely a crime movie.
Yeah.
Fight Club by David Fincher. Fight Club is about a repressed, unnamed man played by Edward Norton, who is suffering from insomnia as a result of some vague, unspecified mental illness. in order to feel something, he starts attending support groups for different people like survivors of testicular cancer or terminally ill patients waiting or admitted to hospice. It works for a little bit before he notices a mysterious woman played by Helena Bonham Carter doing the same thing, which drives him nuts because she, like he, is faking. So he confronts her, they work out a schedule, switcheroo, where they don't have to see each other, and he goes on his merry way. And then on a business trip, which he works in some, again, unspecified, there's a lot of unspecificity in this movie.
Right.
It's like a white-collar office job. He meets every man's ideal man's man, the manly Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt at peak Brad Pitt manhood.
Yes, 0% body fat.
Oh my God, yeah. He will not float. And he convinces him to give in to his violent impulses by fighting him in the parking lot of a seedy bar, and the two of them decide to start an underground fight club as a haven for men to physically express themselves without dealing with their heavy emotional problems in a psychologically healthy way. And things escalate from there. You could say that.
It gets a little crazy.
So, yeah, that's Fight Club. Tristan, had you seen this movie prior to this episode?
I had. I saw this movie just a couple years ago. I want to say 4 years ago. I watched Fight Club. It's one of those movies where, you know, if you haven't seen it, people are like, "Oh, you like movies and you haven't seen such and such." And, you know, I was far enough into my, you know, love of film that I got that reaction a lot. So finally, I bit the bullet. No foreshadowing intended. I bit the bullet and decided to watch Fight Club, and I had some thoughts about it. Which we'll get into. What about you? Have you ever seen this movie before?
No, you know I had. You know I had not seen this movie until about 48 hours ago in prep for this episode. Which, you know, if that's the case, then why would we compare the two of these movies?
Right.
Why would we compare a movie? Like, I suggested this episode, I think, but it also just feels like a really natural matchup because these two movies come up in the same conversation a lot, which is something I noticed without ever even seeing one half of the two of them.
Right. Yeah, you suggested this combo, and it was crazy. Like, on a gut level, I was like, that's right. That's right. We should compare these two movies. And I didn't even really have a clear, like, intellectual, like, reason for why until after I was kind of thinking about the movies a little bit more clearly. And then obviously after watching them, I think there are similarities that just based on my kind of search online haven't really been picked up on as much. So we might be breaking new ground here, but we also might be stretching things quite a bit. But that's the risk you run when you just talk on a microphone with your friend. So
yeah, definitely. And I think there are two reasons, I think, why I'm glad we are talking about these movies from the get-go in our first episode. One of them is because they're just so big. We have to talk about them eventually, and we're kind of getting them out of the way from the very beginning.
That's true.
Yeah, and the legacy of these movies translates to how many imitators they have had.
That's right.
The second reason is I really need to talk about this. I really need to talk about Fight Club. I'd have to break the first two rules because it's been 48 hours and I have like 7 pages of notes that are mostly dedicated to this movie, and I'm about to explode, man. I gotta get this out of my system. I'm like Edward Norton in the damn movie right now. Just like, I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't put my pants on by myself, I can't tie my shoes. I'm a 26-year-old big boy, and I can't do any of these things. I'm really struggling right now.
It sounds like it. It definitely sounds like it. Are you seeing Brad Pitt in your apartment?
Yeah, only in one, like 1/24 of a second flashes.
It's very it's a subliminal Brad Pitt everywhere you go.
Yeah, I really went down the rabbit hole on this one, and anytime I watched like a video essay or somebody talking about Fight Club, they would always do that gimmick where something would like flash on the screen, and I was just like, I'm not gonna go back and try to pause it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep watching this.
We should definitely splice just a single syllable of Brad Pitt saying something every so often in this episode, just to see if people pick up on it. You're just microdosing Brad Pitt for everybody.
Right. Yeah, because sound exists in a continuum, and it's absolutely possible to be able to splice his whole name in here across like 1/24 second sound bites over the course of an hour. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Don't worry.
You play this episode backwards. It's just Brad Pitt's name over and over and over again.
That would be very impressive if we figured out a way to do that.
That would be. So tell me, I guess we're gonna start with Fight Club then, because it sounds like you got a lot to get off your chest.
Yeah, and I think I wanna back it up a little bit and get a broad kind of view on the term bro movie.
Okay.
Because they're not just bro movies, they're the bro movies. These
capital B bro movies. Yeah.
They are tentpoles of the bro movie genre, which is like, it's a term that I think has received loud backlash from people lately. It's a newer term. And I think it's just getting loud backlash because it puts men as the people who are being kind of made fun of, and men don't yet know how to be the butt of the joke yet.
Except for us.
But, right, yeah, oh yeah, we're so much different. And I want to explain a little bit about whether you take that term seriously or not. If you humor it and you go online and you look up what's the broiest movie, who's the broiest director, go on Letterboxd, search lists, search bro movies, Fight Club, first movie to come up, always the first movie. Look up polls, what's the broiest movie on Reddit. On a poll of 1,600 votes, Fight Club 611, it's the winner. Pulp Fiction 470, it's closing in at number 2. Movies that come up in that conversation a lot are Drive or anything by Christopher Nolan, of course. And I think because it's such a new term, there's a lot of recency bias. People lump the works of Damien Chazelle.
Yeah.
Those.
I wanted to ask you, do you feel like the bro movie is uniquely modern, or can you think of something like pre-90s that's a bro movie?
You absolutely could, because I've seen a lot of people retroactively deem the entire career of directors like Martin Scorsese and the Coen brothers. And I think those are broad strokes. I don't necessarily think that they're incorrect. Come on, The Godfather, that's a huge bro movie right there. That is a bro Stanley movie. Kubrick, A Clockwork Orange. These come up in the conversation a lot too.
Okay.
Are they fair criticisms? Let's talk about how do you know it's a bro movie? I have a great example in terms of Barbenheimer.
Okay.
What was that, 2021 or 2022?
That was 23.
God, we're so far into the future now. It feels like forever ago. So I think it's interesting to go online, look up stuff about bro movies, see how much backlash it gets, whereas the term chick flick existed in the zeitgeist for decades and just never really got the same amount of criticism to its broad strokes application. Case in point, the Barbenheimer phenomenon, one of the greatest cinematic events of the 2020s. Even people who disliked Greta Gerwig's Barbie movie, which from experience I can assume was limited to just dads, I did not hear them using the term chick flick in 2023. I did not hear that term in criticism towards Barbie.
It's sort of a dated term, I think. It's something that I grew up hearing. I had an older sister who was really into Twilight and stuff like that. And I heard chick flick all the time from my dad and from, guys in my class and stuff like that. But as I've gotten older, and maybe it's just the company I keep, I don't hear the term chick flick as often. I do hear bro movie or dude bro, film bro, that sort of thing. That's become more prominent. Yeah,
and on the flip side of that coin was Oppenheimer, which was a movie directed by one of the four heads on the Mount Rushmore of bro directors.
Chris.
Just Chris. And I enjoyed both of those movies in different ways, but I watched the scene where J. Robert Oppenheimer meets Florence Pugh's Jean Tatlock for the very first time, and they're kind of flirting with each other in a formal social setting. And I remember thinking to myself in the theater when this movie came out, okay, if this movie smash cuts to the two of them having sex, then this is unquestionably a bro movie.
Oh.
And it's like Nolan on the set of the movie a year prior peered through time into my head and saw no other way to progress the relationship of those two characters except do exactly that, because it happens right like in the scene after they meet each other. You just
it does.
Cut through it. They're having sex, and that is to me like one of the aesthetical sequences. Is aesthetical even a word? Sequences to a bro movie.
So it's sort of a cutaway from intimacy and foreplay, cutting right to the action.
It's sort of a male fantasy, like, cut out like how we got to this point.
Yeah. Now I'm in bed with Florence Pugh kind of deal.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That to me is just like such a great example of what constitutes a bro movie. Kind of. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's interesting. I think defining a bro movie, you can definitely look for like formal examples. You can say, well, it does this. It has a lot of violence, or the women characters tend to be underwritten. It's directed by an auteur who almost always is a male, almost always is a white male, stuff like that. I think you can definitely point to formal examples. I think it's definitely much easier to point to things and be like, this is not a bro movie. Like, no one would ever mistake, obviously, like Barbie for a bro movie, right?
Even though my least favorite parts of Barbie are the contributions that Noah Baumbach made.
Sure, exactly. Well, there you go. Or you could look at something like, here's another 90s movie that was like a big deal when it came out and was a paradigm shift. The Matrix. I don't think The Matrix is a bro movie. For one, I think, Trinity is a very important character who, while she's a little sexualized, I mean, she's wearing like skin tight leather outfits and stuff like that, she is fully formed. She has her own character. It helps that obviously the legacy of The Matrix is that it was directed by two trans women. So I don't think you can look at The Matrix and say it's a bro movie. Even something like The Truman Show, which I think has a lot of parallels with The Matrix, stars a man. Yeah. Jim Carrey, I don't think that's like a bro movie. So there, I think it's easy to point to things and be like, well, that's definitely not what we're talking about. But then there's sort of a nebulous, like, there's like a cloud that comes over the conversation when you start talking about something like Oppenheimer or like Dunkirk.
Mushroom cloud comes over the conversation.
Yeah, and it happened. I think it really follows particular directors in particular. I think maybe
it does. Yeah, it kind of bleeds over into their career holistically.
Yeah,
when you start looking at it like that, which like Fincher is definitely. He carries that reputation with him. And no matter how good Helena Bonham Carter is in Fight Club, like, it's pretty hard to deny that her character only has agency in relation to Edward Norton's narrator. There's not a whole lot of proactivity she takes in the narrative.
Yeah, she's a cipher, I think. She's sort of a cipher. And I think that's another defining feature of the bro movie. Women are... they're not fully formed characters. They're more like a totem or something. They're like, here's a little bit of thematics for you, and in the form of a woman. The woman dies. Like, you look at all the Christopher Nolan movies, and like the wife, right? Like the wife is died, and that's a sign.
Yeah, she's a catalyst. She's not a character.
It's a talisman for the fact that the protagonist has lost something, and he is grieving, or he's searching for revenge, or something like that, or he can't love again because he's lost something. That's a hallmark. That's a very strong hallmark, I think, of a bro movie.
Yeah, and who better to talk about it than us? Yes. We're like brothers, the two of us. We're pretty much brothers. And there's another element to it where I think you can kind of track the influence, like not on film as a whole, but just in terms of like imitators. That film bros they do exist. Whether you think a film bro is a contentious term or not, the film bro exists out in the wild. It's been made the punchline in many things. There's a movie called I Love You, Beth Cooper, and the top review for that movie on Letterboxd is the film bro didn't quote either Pulp Fiction or Fight Club. Unrealistic. Like film bros, that's I guess there's a character like that in the damn movie.
Yeah,
I've never seen it.
I actually have seen it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Anyways, we can move on.
We'll move past that. But there are traces of this archetype everywhere. It's literally a joke in the Barbie movie. They make a Zack Snyder's Justice League joke, which Zack Snyder is also on the Mount Rushmore of bro directors. He can be the Theodore Roosevelt kind of off to the side because he's the punchline of this archetype.
I don't know. I mean, we have a very close friend who would furiously defend Sucker Punch. So
I don't care. I know he's going to listen to this, Dallas. You know our feelings on Zack Snyder. You already. I don't even need to get into it.
You know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?
They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese?
Oh man, they got the metric system. They wouldn't know what the a quarter pounder is.
And what do they call it?
They call it Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
That's right.
What do they call a Big Mac?
Big Mac's a Big Mac, but they call it Le Big Mac.
Le Big Mac.
I facilitate a film festival in West Virginia. I've attended a lot of film festivals. I've met a lot of amateur filmmakers, and I know a lot of people who are trying to make one of these two movies.
Yeah.
They're trying to make, and more broadly, they're trying to make a Tarantino movie or a David Fincher movie, and I think it just comes down to whether or not they're taking the piss out of whatever concept they're doing. Because that's what, if it's comedic, if they're taking all these tropes and they're commenting on them, it's a Tarantino movie. Specifically, it feels like a Pulp Fiction imitator.
Yeah.
And if they're taking it more in earnest, they're trying to do a Fincher thing. And it's interesting because I don't think Fight Club is his most earnest movie. There's actually a lot of
satire.
Okay, you use that word, and we're going to talk about that. But there's a lot of like beats that are played overtly comedically in Fight Club that are less common in works like Zodiac or like even the entirety of Mindhunter. But that's really what it comes down to. That's what these guys, they're trying to make. And it wouldn't be as much of a problem if they weren't still doing it. They're still doing it in the year of our Lord 2025. Like, I'm sure there were plenty of imitators in the mid 90s, early 2000s, right after these movies came out. But like, I look at Bullet Train. Like, there are imitators on a massive scale. That is David Leitch trying to do Quentin Tarantino, and every time it feels like they are trying to riff on it directly, the more it connotes Pulp Fiction, the more I hate it.
Yeah, I think you could even make a comparison to something like the latest cinematic juggernaut was the Marvel movies, superhero films as a whole, and you had your two different approaches. Do you want to do the Sam Raimi kind of kitschy, very animated, comedic superhero, or are you going to go with your Christopher Nolan, Dark Knight, very moody, very realistic, very grounded superhero? And you've had that kind of interplay between the two. And I feel like you can almost trace that juxtaposition back to the 90s with Tarantino and Fincher, where you have Tarantino, who's a very comic director, I think. He's playing with lots of really flashy colors, lots of very unrealistic dialogue because it's, it's so witty and everybody's so adroit. They're so well read. Yet they're they're talking about fast food at the same time, right? And then you have David Fincher, whose filmmaking is without any sort of flabbiness. It's very cut to the bone, cut to the point. It's very incisive.
I think Tarantino's work feels tropier because it's more in your face, and Fincher tries to be more of like a smooth kind of let all these sequences flow together into one big whole. And so the tropes are still there, but he kind of hides them under very sleek, very, you could argue overproduced filmmaking.
You could, especially with Fight Club, because there's a ton of, let's say, jarring CGI sequences in this movie.
Man, yeah, that 90s era of like doing impossible camera movements through the walls of buildings and into keyholes. He does it in Panic Room, which is like, he made directly after Fight Club, and it's so just kitschy at this point.
Yeah, it really is. And I had completely forgotten about those aspects of the movie. Contrast that with Tarantino, and he's a classical filmmaker all the way in terms of his references, but also just his style. Like I'm trying to think of like a really bad example of CGI in any of Quentin Tarantino's movie. I mean, the guy loves film as a medium. Like he loves showing actual physical film. He owns a theater in Hollywood and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't think, does he really ever use much CGI in his movies?
If he does, it's for things that could be, substituted with practical effects, so you're not even thinking about it. Things like fire, explosions, stuff like that, And Fincher's the same way. Like, I've seen CGI breakdowns of scenes in Mindhunter where they, like, get rid of, like, the bumps on the sidewalks.
Sure.
Or add them back based on the time period. He'll utilize them in ways you don't even think about, and I think it's a nice touch to his filmography a lot of the time. But
then you'll have a CGI penguin wander into a cave and say slide.
Yeah,
so.
You get them both. you get every aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way and imitators of things like Pulp Fiction, it'll cross into the way that filmmakers try to imitate Christopher Nolan in the non-linear approach. They'll tell their story out of sequence in a way to sort of generate intrigue and try to piece it together. Things like Fight Club, I think, are less obvious when you get imitators. Like, you can have the spoilers, but the character who was never there the whole time. But I think, you're just as likely to be taking a page from M. Night Shyamalan, if that's what you're doing. I think The Sixth Sense is more of a more likely to be cited as a direct influence, but that's also like, a character who is dead the whole time versus a character who is the manifestation of an existing character's psyche, which does happen a lot. I mean, I've played a character who was never really there the whole time in a movie. And that's I think it's a great short. I'm obviously way too close to it to say it objectively, but I'm not an actor.
It's good. I like it. There was sort of a Lynchian influence there too, Lynch and Fincher.
Right. Fincher. And, I've heard the argument that, Lynch could be considered a bro director as well. And in terms of like, if you go by the imitators, which is, I think, a big contributor to who I identify as bro directors, then I could see it. Because people try to imitate Lynch's idiosyncratic style as well.
Yes, and I think they miss the point when they do that. But I think you're right. I think Lynch does have a style that is so seductive for young filmmakers. Take it from me, I made a short that was trying to channel a little bit of Lynch, didn't work. But it's one of those things where it's like
Bergman. You got some Bergman in there.
I got some Bergman in there, yeah, and obviously Lynch was influenced by Bergman, but. It is. He is one of those directors, and he's also one of those sort of like you get into movies, and Lynch is one of those names that comes up early on. I think a lot of the bro movie directors are entryways into filmmaking, and I think part of the bro moniker is that you're sort of, it's almost like calling someone a jock, right? It's like you're kind of dumbing down film. It's like, oh, you don't even really love film. All you have is a Pulp Fiction poster in your bedroom. Do you even watch movies, bro? It's that sort of thing,
the legacy of like, if I see one of these posters in somebody's room, if I see a Pulp Fiction poster, like, I might kind of roll my eyes. But if I see a Fight Club poster, that might be the only thing I remember the next morning with a big blank spot in my memory. Because like there's a weird overlap between these audiences. The directors are weirdly different, but they're two sides of the same coin. I mean, Fincher is going to be directing essentially a sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Brad Pitt reprising his role in that movie. Why do you think where do you think the overlap is? Like, why do you think it's so big?
It's a great question, and I think it's really the crux of this episode, and the crux of why, like I said, this felt right on a gut level. Why are we still talking about these two movies 30 years later? Not just talking about them, but trying to make them over and over and over again. And I think part of it comes down to like the ethos of both of these movies. Pulp Fiction is a really interesting movie. I feel like I got the raw end of the deal because I didn't even try to describe the plot of Pulp Fiction when we started, because how do you describe Pulp Fiction to somebody besides just saying it's 4 stories of criminals interlapping?
What can you say about Pulp Fiction that hasn't already been said?
Exactly, but Fight Club is it's fairly simple. It's just a guy starts a fight club, and then he finds out that he started it with himself. It's pretty easy. But Pulp Fiction is a movie that's just, it opens with 2 guys talking about fast food. And then you're like, what is this even about? And they get into this conversation in the very beginning of the movie where they're talking about like Mia Wallace, who is their boss's wife, and how she starred in a failed pilot. And they're kind of talking, and John Travolta's character asks, "What's a pilot?" And Sam Jackson just basically looks at the camera and says, "A pilot is a show that the first episode of a show that was never picked up." And you kind of go into the movie thinking, "Is this just a series of failed pilots?" Because it kind of feels that way. It feels like a couple threads that Quentin Tarantino wanted to pull on, but he's also found a way to kind of interweave. But behind the whole movie, I feel like, is the idea, which is a very similar idea to Fight Club, which is that your media diet defines you. And Fight Club goes at it a little bit of a different way. It's the whole IKEA sequence where he's going around his room and he's defined by his IKEA. He literally says, I am Jack's blank. I'm the cold sweat on Jack's brow. Stuff like that. Right. You're defined by your possessions. And I feel like Tarantino, he's going at it from a different way. You're defined by your media references, by your diet and all that stuff. Yeah. And this movie is it's suffused with nostalgia for past eras. They drive a 70s car, I believe.
Yeah. They go to the diner.
They go to the extended sequence at a diner, 1950s diner. You have like literal icons walking around. By the way, did you catch Steve Buscemi as Buddy Holly? I'd never caught that before until I rewatched it yesterday.
Yeah.
So you have a movie that is very much playing with past decades and past icons. I think Butch, Bruce Willis's character, his last name is Coolidge. He fights a boxer named Wilson. Coolidge versus Wilson. These two 1920s presidents.
Wow, it's genius. It works on so many levels, and I just don't feel like people appreciate it enough.
It's a I don't know what he's going at with that. It's a conservative versus a progressive icon. I don't know. There's a little bit of just fun. And this movie likes to play with the passage of time. It likes to play with iconography. Mia Wallace looks like Cleopatra. You just this strange mix of genres. And I think Quentin Tarantino is somebody he's living in the 90s. Culture's dead, basically, because of the 80s, the rise of neoliberalism. And he's looking at all these past films. He grows up on all these movies, and he wants to pay homage to them. And he wants to make something kind of new out of them. And I think it's something that really was, I think, probably mostly started by George Lucas when he made Star Wars, which is obviously a big genre mix. But Quentin Tarantino, I think he pays a little bit more obvious homage, and he also made it a little bit more accessible. It's not that nobody wanted to make Star Wars after Star Wars came out. Obviously, everybody did, but it really blows you away with special effects, right? And you watch something like Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, you're like, all I need is a retro car, some guys in suits, and a gallon of fake blood. I can make this, right?
Yeah.
It's very accessible.
He's got that scrappiness to him a little bit more.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And if you're more impressed, though, by like directorial like formalism, I think David Fincher kind of wows you a little bit, because you go into Fight Club, and it's kind of about a similar thing. It's sort of about whereas the past, we're standing on this heap, this like trash heap of the past, and where has it gotten us? And Brad Pitt's got that great line where he's like, "We're the lost, or the middle children of history." God doesn't love us and all this stuff, and it's like it's very very much about Gen X angst, right? And so I think David Fincher's answer to what Quentin Tarantino sees as, I'll just put this all together into this fun little comic movie. David Fincher's answer is, let's just blow it all up from the ground up and really kind of try to shift the paradigm. And in the process, he accidentally makes a movie about the rise of fascism. Boom! There's the mic drop moment.
We all started seeing things differently. Everywhere we went, we were sizing things up. I felt sorry for guys packed into gyms, trying to look like how Calvin Klein or Tommy Hilfiger said they should. That what a man looks like?
Self-improvement is masturbation. Now self-destruction.
After I watched Fight Club, I needed a
shower?
Yeah, I did need a shower afterwards, absolutely. And I needed another perspective on it. And I listened to an episode of a podcast called The Bechdel Cast, which is a very good podcast that analyzes movies from a progressive feminist lens. And they ripped it to shreds. I mean, you can imagine with a name like The Bechdel Cast, kind of like, I think they're great. But I probably shouldn't have listened to that episode right after watching the movie because it put a very sour taste in my mouth. And I went into the movie knowing that there is a sect of young men who may or may not have completely misconstrued the meaning of the movie. I say may or may not because its status as a satire is questionable to a lot of people. And so I texted my girlfriend and said, I need you to watch this and tell me what you think. And she did. And she really liked it. And I was like, okay, what's going on?
Dude, are you more feminist than your girlfriend? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. Don't you. Nope.
Trying to catch you on a hot mic right now.
In her, what she was texting me sort of some live updates as she was watching it. And she said, I'm cackling at the thought of incel movie men hearing the line, our depression is our lives, and nodding in unironic agreement. Because there are plenty of like lines that just fall out of Brad Pitt's mouth. Like, we are a generation of men raised by women. I'm wondering if another woman is really the answer we need. And I absolutely have met people who have told me that Fight Club is their favorite movie. And then a couple months later, I see them on social media talking about how it's a tragedy that every woman in America has an OnlyFans now. And we've truly become, a recreation of the Weimar Republic. And I'm like,
yeah,
dude, you're digging up the obscure Nazi propaganda. So I went into this movie knowing like kind of like one, it's beloved. I mean, this is in just outside of the IMDb like top 10. It's highly rated on all platforms, Letterboxd, Rotten Tomatoes. Like people love it. It is a tentpole of a movie.
Right.
And I really needed to get to the bottom of like who has missed the point of this. Is there a point to this movie at all? And I like, it's a critique on toxic masculinity. But at the same time, like the Fight Club itself, which is supposed to be an outlet for men to express themselves physically in a healthy way, is like definitively not a healthy way for them to express themselves. And then I look up like interviews with the author, Chuck Palahniuk, who's like talking about, he's referencing the psychology of Jordan Peterson in his interviews. And
right.
specifically the philosophy that it's healthy for young men to express themselves physically, to wrestle and things like that. So like, is it supposed to be a negative thing?
Yes.
So like a character like Tyler Durden is like could be seen as a stand-in for Andrew Tate like 15 years before he even blew up. And we all kind of know how that ended. But
it hasn't ended yet, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not calling for any violence against Andrew Tate, of course. No, I know what you mean. Because I read a little bit about the author too, and I read some comments he made about how, for example, the left is too easily offended by things and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I don't think necessarily the at least the writer of the novel is maybe as sympathetic to like our politics, for example.
Right.
I don't necessarily know about David Fincher, but I'm
going to say no when it comes to David Fincher. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say no.
Oh, is he sort of famous for saying anything in particular? I think
he's kind of famous for never saying anything, actually, but continuing to make the type of movie that he makes. But like, Polinick is a queer author, and he wrote Pulp Fiction. He did not write Pulp Fiction. He wrote Fight Club in 1996 before he had publicly come out as a gay man. And I think just like it's all summed up by the last line that Edward Norton says when he says, "You met me at a very strange time in my life." I think he wrote this book at a very strange time in his life. And I think it's messy for that reason. Now, I've never read the book, and a lot of people who have seen the movie haven't. And their takeaways from the movie are all over the place.
So
this is where you come in.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So my takeaway for this movie, and I, like when I first watched it, like I said, I had thoughts, and I think I was wrestling with a lot of the thoughts that maybe you're wrestling with right now, which is, does it matter if it's intended to be a satire? If maybe not even the majority, but like a vocal minority of people who come away from this movie come away looking at Tyler Durden as a hero, as somebody who's doing something right. Does it even matter what the intent is? Or does it even matter what my interpretation is, if that's just the real world impact of it? Has it just failed? Has it fallen on its face because of that?
Yeah. And
I think, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but I think maybe, are you wrestling with that a little bit?
Wrestling with what specifically?
The idea that this movie has obviously... there are people who are sympathetic to this movie for reasons that are politically
not
unsavory, and that aren't apparently the intent of what was being lampooned. Is that an issue?
Well, is that the intent? I mean, was the intent to lampoon? I think that in a context like this, it matters. I think that, I don't want to say that anybody has the wrong interpretation of this movie. Actually, if there's any movie that I want to say people have the wrong interpretation of, it's probably this movie. It's probably Fight Club, because, what's the worst? These two movies, Pulp Fiction and Fight Club, when they exist in their worst form, Pulp Fiction is Tarantino granting himself permission to say the N-word. That's like, that could be your worst takeaway. With something like Fight Club, your worst takeaway could be, I hate women. Men are the real oppressed people, and Tyler Durden is cool. I know, obviously, he's meant to be an antagonist, but also
we should probably look at the end of the movie, right? Let's look at where Tyler Durden actually ends up, right? Because he ends up. I mean, obviously, he bears witness to the mass destruction, the mayhem that he's wreaked upon the undisclosed city in the movie. He has just shot himself in the mouth.
Yeah.
He is barely in control of his own lackeys, because he has sort of taken on this his words have taken on this outsized role and this meaning to people that even he can't contradict anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It's spiraled completely.
And he, I don't want to say he gets the girl, but he is there with her, and it's like a sort of an admission on his part that maybe he does need Marla. Maybe there's something missing in his life that he didn't have. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there's maybe there's some ambiguity there, but I think maybe that points to the idea that women are bad is not the correct takeaway from the movie, or I should go join a proto-fascist fight club. That's not the takeaway from the movie, because I don't end up, being a skinhead Nazi or with a gun in my mouth.
Well, yeah, I mean, but at the same time, like, Edward Norton's character is not a great guy, separated from all the worst aspects of himself embodied in Tyler Durden. Like,
no,
the way that kind of my girlfriend described it was that Ed Norton is the nice guys finish last guy. Brad Pitt is the her body, my choice guy. But at the end of the day, they're flip sides of the same coin.
They are.
They're both bad. They're both like, it's just like he's oppressing himself at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me where, like, you take the source material and you make a movie about it, so you're visualizing it, and you cast Brad Pitt as Tyler Durden because he has to be, perfect. He's hyper competent, at everything he does. He's organizational. He's charismatic. He's the best lover that Marla has ever met in her life. Why wouldn't you want to try to like it makes sense to me that these guys, you know, they look at Tyler and they're like, well, you know, you just cut out the anarchist part and you could still be him. You just you know, trim off the parts you don't like about him. I think that's what a lot of people, yeah. But the men are saying that, you know, the men can fix him. I can be him. And my girlfriend thinks this movie is super gay.
It is.
Yeah. I mean,
that's another similarity. Actually, I think that's a similarity between this movie and Pulp Fiction a little bit. I think there's some spousal spats and some similarities between, you know, Tyler and the narrator, but also Vincent and Jules from Pulp Fiction. Hi, Pulp Fiction. Remember that movie? that we're trying to compare there. Yeah. I understand Pulp Fiction does. I don't think it really. Yeah, probably you're right. The worst thing you can say about Pulp Fiction is, did Quentin Tarantino write this to say the N-word? Which it's still up in the air. And then I think there is a lot of room for misinterpretation with Fight Club, but I think I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try not to
I'm going to interpret it the right way, is what you're saying.
Well, it's art, right? And art does lend itself to many interpretations. Does a satire, and that's a genuinely interesting question, does a satire fail if there's even one person who doesn't know that it's satire? I feel like it has to ride a line, right? That's sort of the Poe's law of the internet. Like, if you get to a point where it's like, and maybe satire is dead, right? Maybe satire just, it can't exist anymore because we're so irony-pilled that we look at something like Fight Club and we're like, you know, I actually would want to shove a gun in my mouth and hug the girl at the end, right? Like, maybe there are people who do feel some sort of kinship with Tyler in the wrong way, in the way where it's like, well, he can walk out of that high-rise afterwards and be embraced by his gang of lackeys, and who know, like the Joker at the end of, you know, Joker, you know, like who knows?
Yeah, I saw, like, I watched an interview with Edward Norton where Edward Norton has a much more like innocent interpretation of this movie. He compares it to The Graduate, and he compares his character to just like being that aimless kind of like post-youth. And then I looked at the comments in this interview, and I just want to leave you with this. I mean, this is exactly the kind of discourse that this movie has online. As somebody in a comment thread saying, I always saw Fight Club as going super deep into satire, satirizing previous levels of satire, but then also making a satire out of that satire, and so on.
It's satire all the way down.
Yeah, what the hell ever. I mean, it's just like, at the end of the day, I think we could be talking circles around a faux intellectualist movie. And I mean, or that's exactly the point. And this is the rabbit hole I've been going down for the past 48 hours. I think it is an accomplishment of Fight Club to be sending me spiraling in the way that it is.
Hey, as long as you're not spiraling into your local bar and joining the nearest Fight Club, I'd say you got off easy.
I saw a guy punching himself in the face and thought, I want to do that too.
That's literally it, right? Like, that's the whole, like, the reveal that Brad Pitt is Edward Norton's character. It's not just like, holy shit, you know. It's also like, oh my god, what a pathetic loser. He's been doing this to himself the entire. It takes away. I feel like it takes away so much of the oomph behind the Brad Pitt character, because he's not even real. He's not real, and that's the point. He's an ideal. He's an idealized version. He's a man's man. And then you peel back the layers, and you're like, oh, he couldn't be real. And if he were, I wouldn't want to be his friend.
Yeah. Whereas, like, you know, from the beginning of a movie like Pulp Fiction, it is already, the cadence is cluing you in that it's not that deep.
There was a meal, the Travis Scott meal or whatever at McDonald's. This is Quentin Tarantino's meal. This is his fast food, and he's going to serve it up to you on a silver platter and say, he's not going to be pretentious about it. He's not going to say that it's not fast food, but he's going to dress it up a little bit and make it look nice. And he's not afraid of the IKEA catalog, you know? Now, he'll kind of poke fun, I think, a little bit at the past. One of my favorite sequences, like in any movie, is Christopher Walken walking in and doing the whole anecdote about the watch. and he's literally
It's
just saying,
a class. That's an amazing monologue.
oh my gosh, it's
yeah.
like the best Christopher Walken thing ever, and that includes like Severance and like the James Bond movie he was in, A View to a Kill, whatever. And he just walks in and he's just like, "This is the passage of time. I shoved it up my ass." Like that's literally, and that's the thesis of the movie a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it's literally just like, here's a very special, perfect thing, and I just pull it out of my ass, and here you go. Make of it what you will. It's just a MacGuffin now. It's just a plot device. It doesn't even really matter. And that's Quentin Tarantino. He's like, nothing matters. Let's have fun. And David Fincher with Fight Club's like, nothing matters. Let's burn it all to the ground. You know, it's just a completely different. One's a celebration, and one is really like trying to destroy. In a way, I mean, like at the end of the day, I don't think David Fincher is saying we need to blow up all the credit card buildings, but he is, I think, touching on a nerve. Like I think he is touching on something that is real, which I think is alienation. Now I don't think it's distinctly male necessarily, but people are alienated. People have been alienated for decades, and we don't have to necessarily get into that because that would be a whole discussion in and of itself. But I think you have two approaches, right? And there's a famous meme that I recently discovered was disseminated by a Nazi appropriately, and it's the which way Western man meme. Have you seen this? Where it's like a picture of a guy he's like on a trail, and one way leads towards like a gothic, like haunted house kind of castle looking thing, and the other way leads towards like this like beautiful like one way is one way, one way is the other way. And but that actual Which Way Western Man was a book put out by like a Nazi, so like I said, it's appropriate. But I think that is sort of your choice. Are you a Barbie daughter? Do you want a Barbie daughter or an Oppenheimer son? And it's like, do you want Pulp Fiction or do you want Fight Club? How are you going to deal with your postmodern neo-Marx? How are you going to deal with your postmodern ennui? Like, what are you going to do with the culture that has collapsed around you? Are you going to Are you going to repackage it, turn it into something kind of new, or are you going to rage against the machine and put a bullet through your back of your head? You know, it's that sort of thing.
Or your cheek, or wherever that went. I don't know.
It ricocheted. It ricocheted in his mouth. It just came out.
You swallowed it. Yeah.
he's like the mask. He swallowed it.
The way your dad looked at it, this watch was your birthright. You'd be damned if any slope's gonna put the greasy yellow hands on his boy's birthright, so he hid it. In one place he knew he could hide something, his ass.
From the first needle drop in Pulp Fiction, Tarantino is flailing to get your attention and say, look, we're doing something different. Like Miserlou starts playing, like, oh, we're in for it now. And I was worried going into this watch of Pulp Fiction that, having seen so many imitators, so many just transparent, this is exactly what we're doing, we are trying to be Pulp Fiction imitators, I was like, this is going to make the movie worse for me. And it didn't. It did. It's so much fun. It's so good.
It has aged super well. I think it still holds up. No one does it like Tarantino.
No, and I think if it was made today, there'd be scenes like, Jules blowing up in the diner, like yelling. And Vincent would like lean over and be like, "Did you take your mood stabilizer today?" It would have like these like stupid like Marvel-esque one-liners that completely deflate the scene. It's funny because he is scary and he's escalating and escalating. Like, Tarantino, I have a lot of problems with him, and I have avoided his movies since high school, except to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood when it came out 6 years ago, which is a very masturbatory movie. But Tarantino's been doing pretty much the same thing since the beginning. He kind of, I don't know if he's changed much as a filmmaker except to comment on himself.
That's probably right.
Yeah.
That's probably right. No, I agree with you about the needle drop and everything. It is sort of begging to get your attention. I think Quentin Tarantino delights in like artifice. Like, I think he makes movies. They like
make you want to go to the movies. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, he makes capital M movies. He's a filmmaker. And he loves the big title drop and the needle drops and the people talking like nobody on this planet has ever actually spoken.
Yeah.
He loves that sort of thing, and he wears it on his sleeve. And I think David Fincher in Fight Club is wrestling with artifice in a different way. And not to say that there aren't a ton of like fourth wall breaks in Fight Club. Just like the beginning of Pulp Fiction is literally the definition of pulp. Like there's your break the fourth wall right off the bat. But Fight Club itself is a very kind of self-reflexive movie in a lot of ways. And I think they're just going about it in two different ways. But I think that's a hallmark of movies. I mean, you can go further back than the 90s, but I think really minted by the 90s. And in a lot of ways, we haven't been able to kind of get out of that cycle. Like we're still kind of cycling through it and trying to, where do we go from here? You know?
I say we go to the questions.
Let's go to the questions. Question time. I have a banger of a first question for you.
Okay.
It's a Fight Club question. What historical figure would you fight and why? Because in the movie, Edward Norton says he'd fight Gandhi.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt's like, "Ooh, good answer." And I'm like, "What is Jeff gonna say?"
Well, I had a conversation in a car recently with some friends about like, what celebrity would you want to punch in the face? And I think celebrities are historical figures, right? I mean, like
they will be eventually.
They will be. Yeah, they'll be remembered for all of time. And you know what? I'm just going to give it to Jared Leto. I'm going to go full Edward Norton on him, and I'm going to rearrange his face.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You saw him. You saw him in the movie. Why does Fincher have to put Jared Leto in everything? He's in Panic Room like right after this movie too. Like, and he's the worst part of it. He's the worst part of everything that he's in.
He's pretty good in this movie though. I like him in Fight Club
because he gets the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, it's very cathartic.
Yeah.
That's when I identified with Edward Norton.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. What about you?
Geez, that's a good question. I think
my question was a good question.
Oh yeah, that's right. That is my question. I think who I would beat up. I think James Madison is the shortest president. He's like 5'4".
You would go head to head with James Madison.
Yeah, so he's like an inch or two shorter than me. So I feel like I could definitely take him.
I think you could. Yeah, put him in a headlock.
Yeah, kick his ass.
So I have a great question for you. Which is you have to sit one-on-one with one of these two directors and watch their movie with them. Which one are you going to watch?
Quentin Tarantino.
Really? Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just like, yeah, I think he'd be more fun.
Yeah, he'd just be so much more fun. And we would watch it on an actual film projector probably. And maybe David Fincher would
we watch it in his theater, yeah, in LA.
Yeah, we watch it in his personal like theater, and he's like, the reason I did that. He would be talking the entire time, and he'd be giggling to himself and everything.
Yeah.
But like, and he'd turn over and look at you, and his chin would be like sticking in your face. It would be really funny. I would do that.
Don't get me wrong. I think Tarantino also deserves a swift punch in the face, but I don't think I would enjoy sitting with David Fincher one-on-one.
I've actually never seen like a interview with David Fincher. What is he like?
Well, you know, he like the scene where Edward Norton is kicked down the stairwell. Like his stunt double ran that scene like dozens of times, and Fincher kept making him do it, like fall down the stairs over and over, and ended up using the first take. He's like such a perfectionist. I feel like he would be insufferable, and Tarantino would be insufferable in a way that I think he would probably at least admit to it. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds. I would not want to sit with that guy. Definitely Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
All right, my next question for you, and I think we've already maybe alluded to this a little bit. Which movie could be remade today?
Like, I think I would rather see a remake of Fight Club.
Really?
Because there have been so many Pulp Fiction imitators, and to actually do a legitimate remake of Pulp Fiction seems like such a recursive task to me. I wouldn't watch it. I might see a remake of Fight Club, but yeah, no, I don't want to see a remake of Pulp Fiction at all.
If they remade Fight Club, I think it would be a more minimalist kind of film. There wouldn't be so much like weird CGI sequences in it, for one thing. I feel like that would be something that they would, and obviously CGI has gotten better. So yeah, I could see that. I could see something like that. I think that's probably what I would pick too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even as somebody who questions whether or not it should have been adapted to begin with, let's make it again.
They'll get it right this time.
Speaking of, if you had to replace the score or soundtrack to one of these movies with a soundtrack by Pharrell, which one would you do? And I think there's a correct answer to this.
Oh,
one.
it's Fight Club.
Yeah,
sure.
it is. Yeah, it is. No misconstruing that as anything but a satire when Pharrell Williams is because I'm angry. Like plus like Pulp Fiction just has one of the best soundtracks of all time.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to move around or change anything. No, that'd be great. Yeah, clap along if you feel.
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, great question.
Great question. my next one's actually a music related question.
Okay.
So the end of Pulp Fiction is Jules and Vince, they walk out of the diner like badasses. And the end of Fight Club is Tyler and Marla watch as the city explodes around them. Uh-huh. Which do you think pairs better with The Walk of Life?
I think I have actually seen a Walk of Life project for Fight Club. Or maybe I haven't. Maybe one doesn't exist, but it feels like it should. It's got to be Fight Club, right? Like,
I think that's probably, yeah. I'm kind of on the fence actually about that one because I love the ending of Pulp Fiction. I just love how like understated it is. They just like walk out of the diner. You know, they're going to their next little vignette that they were part of. So it's perfect. I love it.
Those two diner robbers met Jules at a very weird time in his life. That is surely what happened. Yeah. So are you going with Pulp Fiction for that?
I'm just gonna say Pulp Fiction just to rub you the wrong way.
Okay. Cool. Love it. Here's one for you. If you had to gender swap one of the leads in both of these movies,
okay,
who would you choose and why?
Oh man. Geez, you couldn't do it with Fight Club, right?
Oh, you absolutely could. Yeah, you have to turn Helena Bonham Carter into a man.
Oh,
you have to turn her into a man, and then it's finally the gay narrative that it is subtextually. Yeah. You just get rid of the subtext because clearly the subtext was needed to be spelled out in this movie. I don't know.
I don't know. I think I would maybe make John Travolta in Pulp Fiction a woman because that would make the scenes between him and Uma Thurman, Mia Wallace would be. It would have a different flavor to them.
It would. Yeah, I could see that. That could be. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because people would be like, oh, like, because everybody in the whole movie is like, you can't be macking on the boss's wife and everything. But would anybody know that like John Travolta is a woman? And John Travolta's already done drag for Hairspray, right?
Right, so his last great role for sure. Actually, I think his biggest role since Pulp Fiction, probably like almost over 10 years later.
It would just be interesting to see that dynamic. Yeah, I don't know. I could see it. All right. Which movie would you watch with your grandma?
That's a good question.
Yeah. You got little Grandma Bogus.
I think Pulp Fiction probably. I would watch Pulp. I think it's easier to justify. I think it's a bigger movie. I think it's a more important movie.
Okay.
Yeah, and I could be like, Grammy, just plug your ears. They're about to say some words you don't like. And then, enjoy the rest.
That's really sweet. Yeah, I can see that. She's like, why are they saying all those slurs in the movie?
My grandma watches Hallmark movies almost exclusively, so this is
my gosh.
It's very tough.
The scene with Zed in the Gimp would be like, that would break her poor little brain.
I just don't know. Yeah, I don't think she would know what was going on. But she's very smart, so I could be completely underestimating her. I don't know.
The first time I watched it, I was like 15. I didn't know what was going on either.
Well, which one would you watch with your grandma?
Yeah, I'd probably pick Pulp Fiction, just because I feel like Fight Club's got, it's a dude movie. It's It's even more of a dude movie, I think, a bro movie than Pulp
Yeah.
Fiction.
Okay, I've got one for you. Complete the analogy. Oppenheimer is to Barbie as Fight Club is to blank.
Yeah, you asked me this before the show, so I had time to prepare, and I think the answer I came up with was 10 Things I Hate About You, but I also think that But I'm a Cheerleader might work. They're both 1999. We'll call them girl movies, not chick flicks, because I feel like chick flicks is kind of derogatory. I don't know. I like them both. They're both really good movies, and I might even put them up against Fight Club in terms of preference. But I feel like those two might be appropriate. How would you complete the analogy? I have to do Pulp Fiction, right?
Yeah, you got to do them both.
I don't know. What movie is like Pulp Fiction? There aren't any.
What have we just been talking about for the past? Every movie is like Pulp Fiction. Every movie is like Pulp Fiction.
Oh my gosh. And Pulp Fiction is like Barbie, or it's like Oppenheimer?
It's the Oppenheimer. Yeah.
It's the Oppenheimer of the group? Okay, so like the Barbified Pulp Fiction, what would that be?
Yeah.
I would feel like it would be an actual adaptation of Fox Force 5. If they actually made it into a feature-length movie, that would be Barbified Pulp Fiction.
Nice. Okay, that's good. For me, the Fight Club analogy would be completed with the movie The Opposite of Sex. Have you ever heard of it?
No. What's the opposite of sex?
After her stepfather dies, 16-year-old Dee Dee moves in with her gay half-brother Bill. Already pregnant, Dee Dee seduces Bill's partner Matt and convinces him the child is his. Something like that. And there's like voiceover that's kind of snarky. It deals with themes of sexuality and insufferable characters. It's great.
Awesome.
It's great.
Awesome. What about Pulp Fiction?
Pulp Fiction, I think maybe if they did like an actual adaptation of Fox Force 5, like that.
A good question, dude.
Yeah, I don't have. I came up with this question. I don't have an answer. Let's just say Little Women.
That's good. All right. Marla Singer or Mia Wallace?
In terms of,
no, you just answer.
better character is Mia Wallace by a long shot. But I do have a very big soft spot for Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah, you do. You big old softy.
What can I say? I'm like Bob. I'm like Meatloaf.
Classic Meatloaf.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mia Wallace. Better character.
All right, that's fair. I'll go with Mia Wallace.
Good. All right, my final question for you is, David Fincher said in an interview, audiences don't like to be made uncomfortable. It makes them uncomfortable to be uncomfortable. Do you believe that's true?
No, I don't believe that's always true. No.
Oh, okay.
I think it definitely depends. Sometimes I want to be made uncomfortable. I watched the Todd Solondz movie Happiness like a month ago.
Oh God,
you
had to bring that into it.
Well, it's a very uncomfortable movie.
Just take the yes. It makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think it just makes them uncomfortable.
Okay, good answer.
Don't make any movies that make people uncomfortable. Like Fight Club. I got one last question for you, and it's we're at the movies. Pulp Fiction and Fight Club are playing, and you got one ticket. And somehow I feel like this hard ticket might be a little easy for you. Might have softened up a little bit.
I don't know, man. Over the past 48 hours, I had a very strong answer, and then I talked on the phone with my girlfriend before we recorded this episode, and I think, having only seen Fight Club once, I have to watch it again. I actually have to watch it again. I love Pulp Fiction, and when I was rewatching it for this episode, I was able to just kind of lose myself in it and enjoy it. It's such a great movie. it's a it's a little long, but it's a breezy watch. There's so many good things to say about it that I feel like we didn't even really get into. But I have to watch Fight Club again. I have to watch it again because I have 7 pages of notes that I'm looking at, and I have to know if I'm just like losing my mind or if it's actually justified.
I think that's a good answer because, like I said, my rewatch, I think it changed my opinion on this movie, and I feel like I'm now a fan. I can safely say I'm a fan of Fight Club.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I can say that.
That's why you gotta watch it again.
Yeah, I think you're right. So
7 more pages.
What's your hard ticket?
My hard ticket goes to Pulp Fiction.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, we can't give it to Fight Club after everything you've said about this movie. No, I like Fight Club. I do. But I think Pulp Fiction is the better movie. I think
it's the better movie. Just off the top of my head, I think it's no competition. But
yeah, I think it wins out in terms of, well, it's definitely more pleasing to look at. It's got great performances. It is the ultimate movie, I think, in so many ways. I think it was a paradigm shift, honestly. I think even more so than Fight Club. And I think Fight Club itself was very influential. But Pulp Fiction, I mean, what else can you say about it? It's like I said at the beginning, how do you even talk about Pulp Fiction? It's a movie that you really just have to watch.
Yeah.
And kind of... And you really just get sucked into it. The whole time you watch Fight Club, you're thinking about the movie. You are always thinking about it. And Pulp Fiction, while it is very obviously a movie while you're watching it, it makes no pretensions that it's not a movie.
Yeah.
You still get sucked into it somehow. It's still just completely electrifying.
I think that's a testament to like how good it is to have withstood all of the imitators as well. It's just like, it truly is one of a kind. People try, and they can't capture the magic of Sam Jackson just going balls to the walls wild in this movie. It is a sight to be beheld.
It sure as hell is.
Well, that's going to do it for us, I guess. Now that we know what movie we're going to, we've split up our hard tickets, and we will not be sharing a popcorn this week.
No, but the good part is the run times are very similar, so we should meet up relatively soon after the movies are over.
We'll go by the Big Kahuna Burger afterward. Get ourselves a
tasty burger.
A tasty burger. This is our first episode, so I'm still working on, getting our social channels up and running, but you can follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at Hard Ticket Pod. Hard Ticket Pod. That is one word. And you can interact with us and keep up with all of the fun episodes that we have coming up next. Join us next week when we talk about Wrong Turn and Deliverance. That'll be an interesting one. Until next time, we'll see you at the movies. Bye.
Bye, guys.
It's a hard ticket at the movies. Which one will you watch? Let's decide. It's a hard